Well, good morning, Transit. How we doing this morning? We doing good? You see, that's what I love about middle school students. They get excited about being here on Sunday morning. One more time, can we give it up for Zane, Sloan, and Avery, who just got baptized? So amazing. I know we got a lot of families in the back, which is super cool. But man, I'm excited to be here this morning. And if we haven't had the chance to meet, my name is Zach, and I am the high school pastor here at North Point. Was not expecting that, but you know what? We'll roll with it. I know that we have a lot of high school students who are small group leaders, so shout out to you guys. I love y'all, man. You know what? Keep cheering for yourself. We'll just cheer all morning. It'll be a good old time. But man, I'm excited to be here at Transit this morning and to be here with you guys. But a little bit about me is that I have an amazing wife. Her name's Crystal. We have two boys. Their names are Zay and Cruz, and I love them a whole lot. But my wife, she is amazing. We actually got back from a trip last week where we were in New York City, and from New York City, we actually were taking a train over to Philadelphia. And so one of the things that you got to know straight away is that I am a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan. And so, wow, 28-3, that's all I'll say. I'm a jerk, I'm sorry. But I took this train over to Philadelphia, and it was my first time ever going to Philadelphia to be there for an Eagles game. And so, I'm hyped. Man, I'm like a little kid in a candy store. I played sports growing up, and so, the sports jitters you get, I have that about going to this game on Sunday. And so, I'm super hyped. And the hotel we're staying at the morning of, I go downstairs, and there's actually a coffee shop in the lobby. And there's a guy, he's a young dude who's working there, and he begins to tell me all about Philadelphia sports. He's like, dude, we love our pro sports teams. We love the Eagles. We love the 76ers. We love the Phillies. And he's getting really into it. And he's like, hey, you're down there in Atlanta. Is it the same way? I know you guys got the Hawks and the Falcons. And I'm like, honestly, dude, it's kind of a Braves city. Everybody's a Braves fan. They're Falcons fans and stuff like that. But it's definitely a Braves city. And so I sit down with my wife, and we're there drinking coffee, and then all of a sudden, it just dawns on me. I'm like, wait, Atlanta, there's a bigger sports team than all of that. Do you guys know who that team is? Anybody? There's a school up in Athens. It's called UGA. You ever heard of the Georgia Bulldogs? Y'all ever heard of them before? And so I go back and I start talking to him, and he thought it was kind of weird that there wasn't a ton of pro sports teams that people were huge fans of. And I start to tell him about Georgia, and I'm like, dude, they go crazy about some Georgia football. And he starts looking at me a little bit sideways, we don't really do college football like that up here. And then I was like, dude, I got two friends. I work with them. They just graduated from UGA. They would tell me stories about grown men who would bark at kids at away teams on game day. And at this point, this dude's just full on judging me. Dude, what? You got dudes who bark at kids? He will never come to the state of Georgia. He will stay in Philadelphia. Probably scared him away forever. And so he was really big into his teams, but he just couldn't comprehend the fact that there would be a place that's different than where he lived. And honestly, it was kind of funny, but he was definitely looking at me sideways. I don't know if I need to call the cops on some of these people barking at kids. I don't know where he was at on some of that, but it kind of was funny as I was thinking about it, and even starting to think about our society. He was kind of in a joking way judging how we view college sports, but you start to think about it, judging is actually a huge part of the society we live in. You think about shows like The Voice, it's the whole point of that show is to judge how someone sings, or you think about something like ESPN, a group of people whose entire job is to judge how someone does in a particular sport. And it's kind of funny when you think about it in terms of a singing show, or when you think about it in terms of sports, but the thing is that it's so easy to judge. It's so easy to have our opinions of different things. And there's a lot of things that I have opinions about, and probably a lot of things I judge. And it's really easy to do. But on the flip side, the side that is just so ironic is it's so easy to judge, but we never like when people judge us. Like you may have been in that spot where you felt judged before, and it may be about something silly, it may be about a sports team or something funny, but it quickly becomes more serious when it begins to cut a little bit deeper if it's something that is really personal to you. I remember, just being honest, I remember there was times in middle schools or when I was in middle school where I would feel judged about different things, and those things developed into these like massive insecurities in my life because of some of the things that people maybe thought about me. And that's the thing about judging, right? It's so easy to do, but you never like it when someone does it to you. And so this morning, we're going to be looking at a story of Jesus. We've been going through this series called Unexpected, and it's all about how Jesus would have these interactions with people, and some of the things that he would do would be so unexpected, and people had no idea that he would have done something the way that he did it. And so this morning, we're going to be looking at a story, and just a little bit of context before we jump in is that there was a group of people, and they were kind of still wondering about Jesus. They're kind of wondering what he's all about. Like, is he just like this good teacher? Like, is he something more? Is he something less? And there's this moment where Jesus is talking to this group of people, and then there's a group of people who come up with a woman who had made a massive mistake. And we're going to jump into the story right there in John chapter 8, and it says this. It says, "At dawn, he appeared again in the temple courts, where all the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach them. And it says, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. And it says they made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, they said, 'Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery.' It says in the law of Moses, it says it commands us to stone such women. And then it says, but what do you say?" And it says that they were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing Jesus. And so essentially what's happening in this story is that there's this woman who, it says that she was caught red-handed. She was caught in the act of adultery. Essentially, what that is that she was caught in bed with someone who wasn't her husband. And back then, that was a huge no-no. That was a huge deal for something like that to happen. And so because of that, there's this kind of law where it says like that woman, like she could literally lose her life by something that's called stoning. And they would have the ability to, these people would grab these stones and they could throw them at her because of what she was caught doing. Like she is on trial and could essentially lose her life. Like it was that serious. And I think as she's there, and again, Jesus is teaching a crowd of people, so there's a lot of people around as she's doing this. And I just put myself in her shoes. Like, can you imagine what she would have felt? Knowing that you did something you weren't supposed to do, and now your mistake is magnified. You're in front of a crowd of people, and I just think of the embarrassment, the shame that she must feel in that moment, and everything right now is on the line for her. And so in this moment, they're saying, Jesus, what do you say? As her mistake is magnified. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes there's like these different people who get famous while they're young. And when I was a kid, you guys, I might feel old, who knows? Do you guys know who Justin Bieber is? And like we got, like I don't know if you rock with him, but I remember Justin Bieber. There was this moment when he got famous. He was 15 years old, had this hit single, and he was 15 years old. And so as he continues to get older and older, like he is in the spotlight. And I remember that he would make these mistakes, and people like would act like he's the worst person ever, and his mistakes are in front of the world. And I'm like, man, like I would hate to be in that position where all of your moments as a teenager and as a young adult are just magnified. And this woman right now, like her mistakes are being magnified in front of everyone. And they're like, Jesus, what are you going to do? And in the midst of this moment, they're like, Jesus, what is it you're going to do? And what he does is he does this interesting thing. It says that he bends down and he begins to write in the dirt. He begins to write in the sand. And it doesn't tell us what he's writing, but as he's writing, it says that people are continuing like, hey, we got to stone this woman. Like, Jesus, what do you have to say? And he's writing in the dirt. And then he looks up and he says this line that is so important. So many people know this line. He just says, hey, whoever has never sinned before, you can go ahead and throw that first stone. And then he continues to just write in the ground, and we don't know what he writes, but it says that one by one, starting with the older people first, they begin to walk away until it's just Jesus and the woman. And it says that Jesus stands up, and in the verse, we'll hop back in the story, it says that Jesus straightened up and asked her, he said, "Woman, where are they? Where are the people accusing you? Has no one condemned you? Has no one judged you?" She says, "No one, sir." And then he says, "Then neither do I condemn you," Jesus declared. "Now go and leave your life of sin." And he says, "Where's everybody that was condemning you? Where's everyone that was judging you? Your mistake that was magnified in front of this whole crowd of people." He's like, where are they at now? And she says, they're not here anymore. And then Jesus offers this immense amount of grace, and he says, "Well, I want you to know this, I'm not here to condemn you either." And then he adds this caveat on the end. He says, "Now go and leave your life of sin." And there's something important in the midst of this story that I see that I want to make sure that everyone in this room knows before we walk out. And it's this right here, that when you're a follower of Jesus, I want you to know that Jesus doesn't judge us by our mistakes, but by his grace. Let me say that again. When you're someone who follows Jesus, when you're a believer, you're a Christian, I want you to know that Jesus doesn't judge us by our mistakes, but by his grace. And so you might be like that woman and you feel like you've made this massive mistake. You feel like you've blown it. I want you to know that there's good news, that there is grace that is on the table, and no one expected Jesus to respond in the way that he did. But he responded with grace to this woman. Because that's who Jesus is. And you might be maybe even someone on the other side of things who you find yourself, it's so easy to judge others. And you might even find yourself being like, man, I've judged others to an extent that it's like, I can't even imagine what kind of hurt that may have caused. I want you to know that the same invitation is also there for you. That Jesus doesn't judge us by our mistakes, but by his grace. And so I'm going to pray here in a minute, but the question that I want you to think about, even as you head out to small groups, is simply this right here. What do you feel most judged for at school or at home? And I want you to really think about this question. And then the next question that I want you to just think about before I pray is this. What do you think Jesus has to say about that? Let me pray for you. Heavenly Father, we just say thank you for allowing us to come here. Thank you for a group of middle school students all throughout this room and in different schools and different families, different friend groups from all over our area. Thank you for gathering us here this morning. And God, thank you for the truth that we all make mistakes, but there's always grace on the table. And so, God, I pray for maybe a middle schooler in this room who's made a mistake and it feels like it's been so magnified and it feels like, man, there's no way I could ever have grace or forgiveness for this. God, I pray that the words of Jesus would just ring so clearly to them this morning. And so, God, thank you for them. God, I pray that you be with them even as they go out to small group. And we ask these things in your name, Jesus. Amen.